Live from the PPL Public Media Center, PBS39 presents a community conversation on the future of Allentown.
Good evening and welcome to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. I'm PBS 39 host Monica Evans. Tonight we'll explore what's next for Allentown. During this hour-long broadcast, we'll discuss education, employment, economic development, job growth, and other areas of importance as we gauge the future of Allentown. Allentown is the state's third largest city. According to the U.S. Bureau, Allentown has about 120,000 residents whose ethnic diversity is one of the city's greatest assets. The median household income is around $37,000, and 26% of residents live below the poverty line. Unemployment is at 7.5%. The national average is 4%, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Joining us to discuss the future of Allentown, please welcome Allentown Mayor Ray O'Connell, a former two-term city council member and retired Allentown school teacher and administrator. O'Connell was elected mayor of Allentown in March after former Mayor Ed Pawlowski resigned following his conviction on dozens of federal corruption charges. We are also joined by Roger Maclean, Allentown City Council President and former Allentown Police Chief who spent 40 years on the force. Next to Maclean is Thomas Parker. He's a newcomer to this area. He is the newly appointed Allentown School Superintendent. Joining us to provide perspective from the state side is State Representative Peter Schweyer. He's also a former Allentown City Council member. Rounding out our community panel, our community stakeholders, please welcome Reverend Dr. Larry Pickens, a Methodist minister and the ecumenical director of the Lehigh Valley Conference of Churches. Guillermo Lopez is the director of the Hispanic Latino Affinity Group at the National Coalition Building Institute, where he is also the co-director of the Law Enforcement Division. Dan Bosket is the director for Community Action Development Corporation of Allentown. The organization is focused on helping low to moderate income residents improve their lives. Let's begin with the city's viability. I want to thank all of you for coming, and audience as well. Thanks for taking time out of your day to join us. Thank you very much. Mayor, I'm going to turn it over to you. Let's talk about the city's viability.
The city's viability is very strong. In the areas of economic development, Allentown is alive and well. We're very happy and pleased with what happened in the NIS area. We look forward to the next several years in the NIS area, but outside the NIS area. We extended the Arts Walk the other day with a sculpture called The Curtain. We're looking forward to the vault opening at 634 Hamilton Street. I met with the Jandal family last week. We're very anxious and very looking forward to the waterfront development. But we have to concentrate not only in Center City with the economic development, but go to the south side and the east side. With economic development, obviously you bring jobs. In the last couple of years, 1,800 jobs have been created by the NIS area, and 64% of those jobs went to city residents, which we're very proud of. State tax revenues over the last many years, $80 million. 2017, $10 million have been generated. It's a start. Again, Allentown is alive and well with economic development, and it's only going to get better, only going to get better. We're very pleased with where we're at now, but we're going to move forward and get better.
The 10-year plan on the waterfront seems very exciting. There are a lot of cities that are doing the mixed-use space of retail, residential, and restaurants. But tell me specifically what the city plans to do in its urban core to help low to moderate income families.
Well, it's very important that with the NIS area, it's very important, it was a priority of mine when I was running for election, that we do a community benefits agreement. That what happens in the NIS should benefit the entire community, not just the core of the NIS, but surrounding area, the neighborhoods. And that's going to be a priority of mine going forth. And the waterfront development, yes, it's a probably 6 to 8 to 10 year plan. They're going to break ground in July with the residential properties first, but very excited about that. But we have to do more for the residents. Economic development is fantastic, but if you don't help the people with the jobs, that they can help their families to earn a decent living for their children, it would all be for naught.
What do you say to people who say to you that's just rhetoric? Politicians say that all the time, but they're not putting forth the efforts to make it happen.
Obviously, in my position, I am a politician. When city council, I was a politician, but I live here. I care about Allentown. You cannot have worked in the Allentown School District for 38 years without caring about families. You cannot work in the Allentown School District without seeing poverty and diversity, the ethnic. I went in the early 80s at Trexler Middle School. I saw white flight, amazing white flight, just left. But who stayed? The people that I'm going to help. It might be political jargon, but I'm going to do every day to help those people, the people who have struggled. With the struggling comes challenges and needs, but with the challenge and the needs also comes opportunities for those families. And I say to everyone, hope. You have to have hope. If you don't have hope for your family and your children, you have nothing. And I'm gonna walk it every day.
Fabulous. Representative, what are you hearing?
Well, first and foremost, thank you. Thank you, PBS, for hosting us. We have a great panel here. A lot of friends of mine, people that I've worked with through the years to try to improve my hometown. I say my hometown because I'm actually a fifth-generation city kid. My dad was a city worker. I grew up in and around 10th and Chew. I say that because I lived in a couple different places down there. My grandfather grew up across the street from the fairgrounds and was a Bell telephone worker. I mean, I have old pictures of my family standing in front of Camp Crane when we had ambulance training corps for World War I ambulance training services. I mean, my family's roots in Allentown are 100%, and I don't pretend to be anything other than an Allentown kid with I won't even say a bit of a chip on my shoulder, with a straight up Allentown chip on my shoulder. And the one thing I know about our city is that the city that I grew up in when I was 10 and 12 and 15 years old versus the one after I came home from college is very different. It's different than my father's city, and it's very different from my grandfather's and years back. And my daughters, who are both students in the Allentown School District, and doing incredibly well. And Tom, I want to thank you and all the educators we have in Allentown for all you're doing. Is really again, it's a changing city, but there's so much that binds us together. And the difference between, again, the city that I necessarily grew up in and my dad's and the one that's there now is just our incredible diversity. I mean, we have, my block is emblematic of what we see in the city of Allentown. I have Colombians, Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, African-American folks, gay folk, Indians. I have such a rich cultural diversity, and they're my daughter's friends. They're my friends. They're my neighbors. We have an incredible city. And that remarkable diversity is really the fabric that makes Allentown so unique. You know, when you talk to legislators, we all talk about the districts that we represent, and they're all unique. There are 203 of us in Pennsylvania. Mine is one of the most diverse, one of the youngest. Less than 10% of my constituents are senior citizens. Tom is the youngest person on this panel by about 4 weeks younger than me, right? And so I'm mad at him for that, but that's all right. We'll talk about it another. But you know, the future of our city is predictable because we can see who they are. We have a young, vibrant, remarkable town that is a great place for folks to invest in. It's a great place to raise a family. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else, and I'm just proud of my hometown. We're doing great.
Dan, you are working directly with low to moderate income families. What are they sharing with you?
Well, I think the families feel that the Allentown, the development is really great, but they feel that it's kind of over there. It's kind of like in center city, kind of downtown. When you get away from the urban core, they feel that there are still things that need to be done. The housing needs upgrading. They're concerned about crime, they're concerned about their safety, concerned about litter, they're concerned about trash, they're concerned about noise. And we have a new superintendent for the school district, and they're also concerned about the education for their kids, because most parents want their kids to grow up, get that education, either go to college or learn a trade, and then be productive so they can be self-supportive. The parents don't want their kids staying at home forever. So the residents feel that
I think a lot of people would echo that.
so the residents feel that the development downtown is really going good, but it's got to kind of cascade out, and that's kind of what I think Ray is saying. There has been a lot of jobs created, but the question is, are these jobs that have a what we call the living wage, so that their families can actually be self-supportive and not have to work 2 jobs?
You mentioned housing, and I'm a newcomer to this area. I moved here from Kansas. After spending 20 years there, I came here for my husband's job, and I was surprised that 48% of residents in Allentown are renters. That affects a number of things because you don't have the tax base. It directly affects schools. And that's a hard pill to swallow for folks who are coming in here. In
the city of Allentown, there's a high percentage of renters, but there's a couple of dynamics going on. One, we have an influx of residents that are from areas where they're not homeowners, they're used to renting. And we are getting an influx as younger people, as Peter's pointing out, younger people are not really interested in buying homes because they feel that it kind of weighs them down. They can't move around as quickly as possible. So we always tout the advantage of owning a home, and we know that in neighborhoods, if you own the home, it's been proven that the homeowners take better care of the neighborhood. So we push owning a home, but we also are respectful of the fact that not everybody wants to own a home. But we also have to push property owners to make sure that their properties are up to code and that they're up to speed, and that even if you're a renter, you are allowed to have a property or a home or an apartment that's not only up to code, but a place that you actually want to live in.
That's a big one. Superintendent, your thoughts on funding for your district? I know that there have been some challenges, and I also realize that you are a newcomer to this area as well.
So again, I'd echo the sentiments of the panel. I'm excited to be here in the city of Allentown. I've been here nearly a year now, and this is an absolutely dynamic place. Lots of vitality, lots of different cultures, and I think that speaks to the ability of the school district to continue to grow and excel. We have a number of challenges, as any urban school district would have, and the number one challenge among those are funding. We've had some historic challenges with funding over the last 5 years. We've seen a decreasing fund balance in the district, and kind of where we sit now isn't a new space. It's just kind of a new revelation to some where our financial challenges lie. So we're working internally and externally right now. I have to give great kudos to my state level leadership for advocating and working with the district. We're working with the Pennsylvania Department of Education and identifying a way that we can ensure that we're providing an equitable access and opportunity for education for our students, because ultimately that's the responsibility. Just as Peter, I'm a parent of the Allentown School District as well, and I want my child to have as good an education and as many resources as students in our surrounding districts, and we're committed to ensuring that our children have those opportunities.
Aside from the financial struggles, and that's a huge chunk, explain how charter schools affect your district and students who are on IEPs and other students who are English as a second learners, because you have to make provisions for those kids, and that takes a chunk out of resources.
Right. So budgets tend to be finite. There's only so much money that exists in the school district in a year, and all of the different programs and students, they have a cost associated. One of our biggest challenges in the district is the amount of money that we spend each year in charter school tuition. That's not a secret to anyone, and something that we have to address and kind of work with our local and state legislators to identify ways that absolutely, if charter schools exist in this place, we have to be able to make sure that our local school districts can also provide an equitable level of academic success for kids. And that means that we have to be funded appropriately and have an opportunity to exceed expectations.
Well, tell me this before you go on. For every kid who goes to a charter school, what does the district have to provide to that charter school?
So the cost is about $10,000 per student in tuition for a student that's in a general education program. If you will, please, and I appreciate your patience, and what is the dollar amount that the district receives for each student? Is it
the same?
It's commensurate. It's around the same amount.
Okay, but I thought there was some caveat for busing. Yeah. Okay, so about the same. There's 16,000 students in the district.
So there are a lot of different caveats and kind of funding units that add to the basic subsidy amount. For students that have an IEP, that cost is about $25,000 per student that's paid out in tuition. So, when you add up those numbers, that's a pretty big cost driver for the district. As well, over the last 7 years, we've seen an increase in the number of students that have IEPs in the district, and for a number of reasons. I think first and foremost, parents are identifying earlier that their children have some challenges and working with the districts to identify the need. Absolutely. The stigma of having an IEP that existed when I was a child is starting to fade away. We're understanding in urban districts and in urban communities that our children do have some challenges, and it's our responsibility as parents and as school personnel to work together to identify those needs. So we see those increases in IEP students at a pretty significant rate. And we've had an increase in students that are English as a second language. Just this past year, for example, we've enrolled nearly 400 students after Hurricane Maria that are in the Allentown School District. And we actually created a new school program, our K-6 Newcomer Academy, that's specifically designed to meet the needs of new English speakers to the Allentown School District. You know, all of those are resource dependent, but it's our responsibility to provide those types of opportunities for our children and to differentiate their education and provide them equitable access to their academic experience.
Did I just see you elbow the representative, hoping that he can get some wiggle room to help you with
me, actually. Governor Wolf said to me last night, just ask before we add an extra zero to whatever we're going to give him.
There you go.
He was willing to talk. So.
That's recorded, Pete.
That's fine. I heard he's watching, so it's all right.
You're on record now.
That's fine.
Now, we talked about diversity, and I think that's what makes this city a great city. And certainly Allentown is on a trajectory for greatness. I see you shaking your head. Reverend Pickens, what do you think about that?
It is on a trajectory toward greatness. I think that it's a dynamic city. It's a place where I think we have an opportunity to make some great things happen. And representing the faith community, I think that what the mayor is talking about is an opportunity for faith-based community development to take place, other not-for-profits being engaged in the community to create the space that enables us to work together so that what's happening in the NIS doesn't simply stay there, but moves into the surrounding communities. I appreciate that.
Why did you clap your hand? Share with me. Why did you clap your hand?
No, because I think the advantages have to be passed on to other areas. There's no, people are being left out. The poorest people in our community are being left out of the bonanza that's the NIS. It's a drug and a crime infested area. Certain people outside the NIS are in the core district are making a lot of money. Certain people are making no money, and it's a bad situation. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say thank you. Let's talk.
I want to address that. And Robert, you and I have been friends for a while, and I appreciate your perspective. I grew up at 10th and Shoe. The month before we started the construction on the arena, I took a walk with people that I knew in the community who were wondering what all the fuss was about. Why are we demolishing some of these buildings? Why are we rebuilding our urban core? Why are we doing this? I literally stepped over hypodermic needles and human feces in an area of the city that was a sinkhole just a decade earlier. I guess there's still a hole there somehow. That was absolutely deteriorated to the point where the only economic development that was happening in that area that wasn't attached directly to PPL or at the time the Butts or the Fegleys with the Brewworks, outside of that was people using 1,000 square feet of a 30,000 square foot property along Hamilton Street. They couldn't afford to pay their taxes on that property, let alone provide a family sustaining livelihood for them and their children and their spouses. What was there beforehand wasn't attractive. It wasn't pleasant. And most importantly, it wasn't spurring on any other development. As somebody who's been here not only my whole life, but my family's whole life, I've seen the ebbs and flows. I remember Hamilton Street. I know Ray and Roger remember this as well. I remember the pony rides in front of the Americas, and I remember Super Sunday, and those days were never coming back to Allentown. So I do get defensive over the NIS because it's $1 billion of economic development. in the 3rd largest city in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And when you knock on doors on Jordan Street, as I have, and you knock on doors on 2nd Street, as I have, and you hear the stories of people who, for the first time in a decade, have a full-time job at the Renaissance Hotel, as I have, your perspective changes a little bit. I don't know what I understand, and I certainly agree with and appreciate the need and the desire to take that economic development and make sure everybody in those neighborhoods have it. I get it. I grew up there. I worked at Sacred Heart Hospital before I was elected, which is in the poorest census tracts of the city of Allentown. Nobody talks about the fact that Sacred Heart Hospital is also part of the NIS, right? So it's such a bigger program than just an arena that has had such positive economic development and millions of dollars a year for the Allentown School District as a direct result of property tax increases.
Tell me what you think about that, Guillermo, please.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts going through my head is I recently spoke to someone at church, and they happen to work in the arena in PPL Center. I think that's what it's called. And they were discussing about how fortunate they are to have 3 jobs. And it's still not enough to make it. And I think the reality is we don't talk about how stretched people are, how they are 1 month away from losing everything. If they would go 1 month without paychecks, it would be devastating for them. Maybe 2 weeks. I think the reality is people aren't being paid enough to be able to sustain their families so that they can get a good education, so they can, we all talk about to do the good things that we want to see in life. And that really struck me when they told me I'm blessed to have 3 jobs.
I hear Betsy echoing, or come join me please up here if you will. Absolutely, but I'd like to have you join me as well. Your thoughts on that?
Okay, so hi, my name is Erin Keller, and a number of you are familiar with me because I ran to be mayor. Even though I didn't want to be mayor, at least I knew I was honest and I wanted to get my views out there regarding Allentown.
Stand up so we can see you, if you will,
so
please.
My family's from Allentown. I've had family who's been here over 200-300 years, and I also have grandparents who were direct immigrants who lived down on 2nd Street, fresh off the boat 100 years ago, and I played down there as a child. They spoke German. Today in that neighborhood, they speak Spanish, and it's still welcoming to newcomers. Now, having said that, I was dazzled when I saw the NIS coming in. I worked on the 8th floor of the building, the ICE, most incredible building. I felt wonderful every day going down there, seeing all of the new buildings going up. And then I actually started to talk to the people who lived in the city and in the neighborhood. We are building luxury houses, luxury offices, and luxury stores downtown. There's nothing wrong with that, but we do not have a mixed income, mixed race, affordable housing component, which every other city, including the city our former mayor is from and where he cut his teeth, that was an art form for them. In Chicago, in Boston, in Hartford, in Pittsburgh, fighting blight, actually having people who come in who pay maybe no income, some income, market rate income. And these people do want to live together. I want to live like that. I want to see the people around me live like that. In addition, our homeless problem is outrageous. And the mayor and I have had a discussion about this. It's really been pushed under the rug. We have all of these, there's $10 million available now to beautify Allentown. $1 million of it is being spent on the arts corridor. I want that other $9 million to be used for affordable housing, to help the poor, to actually work on blight, to do micro lending where you can loan people and match their loan to fix their facades, to buy a house, and not just that a select group of what is perceived as older white men are making big bucks in the city, and a lot of the rest of us are being hung out to dry.
Thank you for your time. Your thoughts on that, Roger?
Well, I've spent my whole life in the city also, and I spent 40 years on the police department. So I saw what downtown was. I saw where how low it went, and I saw it start to come up again. So my thought is that in all these areas, like we're going to have the waterfront going, if we can start stretching that out from each of those areas, if we can build out from the NIS, if we can build out from Sacred Heart, which has now just been taken over by St. Luke's, if we can build out from the waterfront project, we can start extending that. We're trying to get business in to get those high-paying jobs or those sustainable jobs, but you know, it's tough. And I think the NIS actually brought people in. Now, granted, it brought most of the people in who were already employed. It relocated them, but it's a start. It's a start in the right direction.
Mayor, your thoughts?
Yeah, I met Erin several weeks ago, but she's right on the mark. $10 million out there, and there's the money, $10 million. Okay, we've got to start using some of that money for affordable housing. Some people don't want to hear the term inclusionary zoning. Okay, they run away. Am I right? Yeah. Inclusionary zoning, they run away. I studied it in Baltimore. I studied it in the West Coast, a whole bit. It does bring a mixed community diversity, low, middle, and you know what? They can rub elbows, okay, and they can get along. And a vibrant part of the city. When you walk down Hamilton Street or 7th Street, I've yet to ask anybody, well, how much money do you have in your pocket? Well, how much money do you have in your pocket? How much money do you have in your pocket? You know why? We're all in Allentown. It doesn't matter, but we have to do it better. And I said, Erin, I'm going to meet with you very shortly about the homeless. Our warming station is a warming station. We need a year-round shelter.
Thank you, Ray.
A warming station is a warming station. We can't even call it a shelter because it's not a shelter. When they go to the warming station and they can't take their 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, that's a crime. And that could be corrected. We need a year-round shelter. And I'm working on that with some people who have some money, and we're going to get it done.
And I'm going to let you address that. You're right. It is a painful scenario for women and children in particular who are homeless and need a place to go. Because typically, not only in Allentown, but all over the country, shelters for women and children are at capacity and there are wait lists. Just not too far from downtown, you have the rescue mission, and I believe that's for men.
For men, yes.
So it's something that a lot of people in our community are very passionate about. What are you doing to help move the meter on that?
Well, I'm only in my 16th day, so I'm only in my 16th day. I'm only in my 16th day, but I'm meeting with the power, the people who have the resources, okay, and they're willing to do stuff for the homeless. I'll be back in about 3-4 months, okay, and we'll update you. But we have to do something. It's crucial.
But it's a sticky subject. You alluded to, and we often hear this, people want to help, but they don't want it in their neighborhood.
I want it in my neighborhood. I want everyone in my neighborhood. I value that.
I think a perfect example of what Erin's saying is it happened over in Hanover Acres. It was a housing project. It was torn down. Now there's rental units and there's houses that are owned by people.
Overlook Park.
Yeah, Overlook Park it is
Beautiful.
now. Yeah. So it's a prime example of what can be done.
And I think it's important to look at it in perspective. I think whenever gentrification happens, people who live in the communities that are on the fringes of that oftentimes believe that that means that we are going to be displaced. So it's important that as we move this forward, that these folks are at the table too. It's not helpful to plan for other people. It's important to include them, and I think that that's the element that needs to be in this process as well.
And permanent housing, we talked about housing and the struggles there. It's one thing to provide emergency shelter. It's a whole nother ballgame to provide permanent housing for people. Your thoughts on that? Roger, you're shaking your head.
I'm agreeing with you 100%. Yeah.
But what can be done? What can be done?
I'll help.
There's ministers that are opening their homes during their churches.
Sure, but as you said, those are not permanent solutions by any stretch of the imagination. The single biggest state area funding to help provide affordable housing is through the PHFA, the Pennsylvania Pennsylvania Housing Financial Assistance Agency. And they provide programs through low-income tax credits and those sorts of things to be able to incentivize development. Because at the end of the day, having served on city council, I know that their $84 million, well, it's a little higher now, but it's like $90 million budget is not going to be able to build a dozen new shelters. It's going to have to happen as a partnership between our private sector, our faith-based community, the Commonwealth, the federal government, and the city.
And the county.
Well, yeah, and the county, and ultimately the community as a whole.
Don't leave any money on the table.
It's going to take all that. Unfortunately, again, PHFA being the single biggest source of funding for this in the Commonwealth is extraordinarily competitive. And so when I was at Sacred Heart, I started the project to build the Sacred Heart housing development that's right there on 5th Street. And that took us 3 or 4 years to be able to get up off the ground. I'm working on a project on the south side of Allentown, similarly, that was a finalist but did not get its funding. And so we're constantly looking for more state resources to do 2 types of housing. There's the easy one to do, which is senior housing, housing for people with disabilities, excuse me. But the harder housing is the affordable housing for working folks that are able to do it. And it's been tough. I've talked to a couple developers who are looking to do that. I'm supportive of their applications. I've done so on a couple on the south side of Allentown. But those dollars are really hard to come by. And so you need really strong competitive grants.
So
Your thoughts?
I do want to make a comment. I don't think a lot of people know that when Trump passed the latest tax giveaway to so many people, one of the things that he put in there was that for people who do developments, that if they develop in certain areas and they're part of a certain fund, and they keep the property for 10 years, should they then sell the property, they will not pay the 25% capital gains tax. So that's another way that you can include public-private partnerships. You don't want to then lose your mixed income housing after 10 years, but you might have a coalition of tenants, or even somebody's like a school district pension who wants to buy into it. So I am definitely thinking that before you do any more work on the waterfront, you absolutely must take a look again at adding mixed income housing, particularly if you're going to be taking houses by eminent domain. And getting rid of a lot of the housing down there. I know the poorest people have lived down there. My grandparents came down here when my grandfather had $15 in his pocket. And a lot of that hasn't changed, particularly from people from Puerto Rico who are suffering. So we're not going to just move them away or kick them away to put in luxury apartments in the waterfront. We need to have it be a waterfront for everyone. Mixed income use, mixed income race, houses, apartments, flats, all those kinds of things, and grocery stores, and so that it's livable, walkable too, and we can do it. We have such an opportunity now. We have the youth, we have the excitement, we have the diversity. There's all this money hanging out there from all of the people given a tax break.
Thank you. Now, when you all are planning such initiatives, are you working with neighborhood groups like folks in Jordan Heights to bring them to the table?
I'd say yes, because right now our agency has been working with the Jordan Heights group for like the last 8-9 years now, and in Center City, one of the things I wanted to mention is that we talk about the development that's going on downtown, but in Allentown you have the Hamilton Street, which is the primary corridor going east-west, but then you have 7th Street, which is the primary corridor going north-south. About 10 years ago, before we started working on 7th Street, the commercial vacancy rate on 7th Street was over 30%. Now on 7th Street, it's under 3%. And so even though there's a lot of big development going on right in Center City, the neighborhoods are benefiting from the fact that smaller businesses are being opened up. And so these smaller businesses service the neighborhood and provide jobs in the neighborhood as well. So that development is actually going on, but it's being kind of overshadowed by the larger development that's going on right in Center City. And as Pete mentioned, a lot of the places that were torn down were places that were underutilized to start with. Most of the commercial properties that were on Hamilton, you only had a business on the first floor, the upper floors were actually vacant. And then getting back to the residents, we have residents involved in everything that we actually do. They're involved with public safety, they're involved with housing, they're involved with community events, because the residents are the ones that we want to take ownership of their own neighborhood. It's good to have resources like the government in place, but the government goes home at some point, except for the law enforcement. So we need the neighbors to be self-sufficient and understand how the system works so that they can be self-sufficient and take pride in where they live. So getting rid of litter, noise, and other nuisance factors are very important, but in terms of housing, it's great to build new housing, but the housing stock in Allentown is really old. And we definitely need to be focusing on rehabbing the housing stock we have, and the city's actually doing that now. So I think the effort has to be on two fronts, building new, but also rehabbing the old as well.
Mayor, tell me what's being done.
Well, I'll piggyback on what Dan's saying. I met with my community economic development director the other day, and the housing stock is not good. A blight is not good. There's not quite as many blighted homes as most people think there are, but the blight is not good. What I'm looking at doing is we need a coordinator of housing, an Allentown housing coordinator to pull this all together, piggybacking on the neighborhoods. The city has been building neighborhoods, the east side, the south side, the north side, okay? Mm-hmm. So if you create those avenues make that neighborhood strong, you make those families strong. And if you have a strong neighborhood plus a strong family, you have a strong city. That's one thing with the neighborhood. But what I like to get into, and I don't want to take Dr. Parker's thing, but we need to work together. Our city and our school district, and I've said this all along, the school district is as strong as our city.
Absolutely.
Our city is as strong as the school district. We're having a meeting tomorrow, Dr. Parker, myself, Roger Maclean, President of City Council, and Charlie Thiel, President of the Town School Board. That hasn't been done in a long time. We have to support each other. His success is our success. Our success is his success.
All right.
Okay? And the bottom line is, I'm tired of people jumping out to go to the suburbs, okay? Okay? And we have to, I'm not going to pick on charter schools. I'm not. What we have to do is we have to keep our kids here in a public school setting. I was an educator for 38 years. I believe in this public school. I could have gone anywhere, not bragging. I stayed in Allentown because I love Allentown. I care deeply about Allentown. We have to make this gentleman successful. And how do we make him successful? We work together, okay? They have a school board, we have a city council, but we can work together. And we're going to make the city strong, we're going to make the school district strong, because we have the will to do so. This is a bright young man, and we're going to do so. And I'm a bright old man. We're going to do it. We're going to do it.
Now, if you will, Thomas, tell me some of the things that you've done in Michigan that you hope to bring here to the school district.
Awesome. So I'll delve a little bit into Michigan, but then I'll pull Michigan. So we have a long-running feud. I'm a University of Michigan grad, Penn State grad, so we fight. One of the things that I've done consistently in my career is really kind of carry this vision for academic success of kids that's built around collaboration, and it's built around understanding and expecting our community to be fully committed and engaged in providing the resources necessary to ensure our kids are successful. So every place is different. In my prior district, we really focused on building and I call it marketing because we don't usually think of marketing in school districts, but we do some really, really great things in Allentown School District. And there are great kids doing dynamic things. I have a student from Allen High School that received a congressional medal in art just today, right? There's so many great things and so many wonderful kids, but we don't do a really good job of telling our story. We don't do a really good job of marketing exactly what we have to offer to our parents, to our students, and to our community. So we have to engage better in communications and really setting our vision out and marketing to our customers and to our consumers. In addition to that, we have to identify the world that our kids will be in 10, 15 years from now, and prepare them for success in that world. Back when old man Schweyer over here was in school, the world was a little bit different. And today our kids are engaging technology at really, really high levels. And Allentown School District, and I did this in my prior district as well, we have to learn to engage technology at high levels as well. Teaching and high quality instruction is the #1 indicator for success in kids' lives. High quality instruction, which means we have to engage, support, love, and develop the teachers that we have in front of kids every day. But we also have to understand and know that students that will be entering the workforce years from now will absolutely engage multiple careers over their time working, and they'll be more likely to engage careers that involve technology. So how do we ensure that kids have the skills necessary to manage multiple career moves and have the knowledge to master multiple levels of kind of curriculum and work life
Certainly.
experiences after they finish high school. So, as any good teacher, I always bring materials. So the Allentown School District has just completed a 7-month process of developing a strategic framework. And the beautiful thing about the strategic framework, and what I always say, is that this is not my work. This is our work. And the strategic framework represents a lot of communication with all the stakeholders in the city of Allentown. We had over 40 community meetings. We had 5 distinct community meetings at different places across the city. We engaged Upside Allentown as great partners, Promise Neighborhood, great
Wonderful.
partners, all of the business leaders on the Hamilton Street District, some of our faith leaders in the community, all stakeholders, and we asked them a few simple questions. What are we doing really good? What can we do better? And what advice would you give us to ensure that we're meeting the expectations for children in the city of Allentown? And out of that, we've developed a strategic framework that's going to drive the work in this district for the next 4 years and have a collaborative and collective vision for how we partner to do that work in the Allentown School District. We see ourselves as part of the glue and part of the fiber of the city, and an opportunity to engage multiple stakeholders around moving that needle is absolutely something that we're looking forward to.
And it's all a big circle. If you are able to attract businesses, retain the ones you have here, and get people in the city, you can't lose. You can't lose at all. Speaking of which, what are you doing to attract businesses to Allentown?
Well, I was going to just dovetail on him
Okay,
real quick.
please, please, and we can go back to that. Thank you.
Asking me?
Yes, go back.
Well, I'm meeting with developers, okay? Obviously, again, I don't go back to it, but it's a reality, 16th day. A lot of people to meet, but we have to attract, you're saying attract people in Allentown?
Correct.
Attract developers, not only attract businesses, not only in the core area, but the south side, east side, which we talk about all the time. You get people to come in, you get people to work here, they're gonna stay here. The key is, we have to get people to not only work here, we have to get people to live here, If they work here, live here, play here, they'll spend their money here, and that'll benefit anybody. That's the key. Getting people to work here and then go home to the burbs, that's counterproductive.
Come and join me, please, Betsy. Please, oh, please. We're gonna give you some exercise right now.
Is that Betsy?
Come and join me so we can hear you and see you. Please. Thank you so much.
I thought you were in Florida.
I did.
Betsy has notes.
Coincidentally, who remembers residential rental inspection?
Right here. Need to bring it
Okay,
back.
say that again. Who remembers what?
This.
Residential rental inspections. Okay, what did you want to share?
Oh, I don't know about 100 things, but
You have the floor.
okay. As an Allentown resident, retiree, former director of community economic development until I quit after I saw corruption for a year, my biggest concern as a retiree and someone who loves Allentown, who was not born and raised there, I was born and raised, well, Norfolk, then Baltimore, and I lived in about 6 other cities. Allentown is great, and we have it all going on. And I lived in Bethlehem, and I purposely moved from Bethlehem to Allentown. How many people can say that around here? And raised my kids in the Allentown School District, paid tuition because we happened to move out of a townhouse. And I'm like, oh, this is the Parkland School District, but City of Allentown, how does that work? Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox as, as I say, the budget. There's a rumor among us that still care that there's a $100 million structural deficit.
In the city?
Uh-huh.
Not true.
Okay.
Not
What
true.
is the number? What is it? I mean, I know you've only been there, less than a
I
month.
know the
16
number,
days.
well, we're $100 million structural
That's-
deficit.
That's one of the
Our budget's
rumors
only
going
about
around.
that.
Yeah,
That'd be like
105
throwing it
million
all.
budget,
That'd be like throwing it all down
Well,
the drain.
remember, we sold the water plant.
Yeah, for 211. That's.
No, I know,
but-
but seriously, structural deficit.
What is it? You'll know
Yeah.
in about 2.5 weeks. The 5-year plan is in.
Okay.
I'm reviewing the 5-year plan with our director of finance. After I review it, we'll go to city council. We'll do a presentation for the public, and then we'll be
Great.
there.
Okay, so we'll
And
know,
you know, people,
we'll know soon.
they talk about, you know, politicians, you know.
Is it anywhere in the ballpark of 50 million?
No comment. keep going, keep going.
Okay.
No, lower. Now you keep going, go lower.
Okay,
Here's the bottom line. Okay, no matter what you do in life, you know, the old buzzwords of politicians, openness and transparency. My mother used to call it telling the truth and being honest. I will tell the truth and be honest. You might like it, you might not like it, but I'm going to tell the truth and be honest. Our structural deficit is not near, keep going,
Okay,
150, 40, 30.
Well, that's good news.
We're in much better shape than I actually thought
I'm
we would
already
be.
breathing easier because I'm worried about my pension.
Good.
I'm worried about my house.
Go ahead.
I live at the corner of 19th and Shoe. I've lived in 4 houses. We moved back here from wherever, Philadelphia, Houston, Miami, Orlando. I've seen a lot of cities. Allentown is great. We've got everything going for us. But we have a lot of out-of-town landlords. We need to talk about licensing. Landlords, it is a business. When you own an apartment in Allentown and you milk it and people move in and out, it's a business. We need to license landlords. This program, Ed decimated it. This program is a shambles. The last time I went to City Council and I listened, they're doing less than 1 inspection a day. There's a lot of rot left in the city. There's a lot of people who don't know what their job is. Morale. Ray, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, or Roger, who's been on City Council, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there were positions in that department that weren't filled, and that was part of it. And he's taking care of that. But.
Right, but all I'm saying is someone needs to drill down, because when I went to City Council and listened to the hearing that Dr. Dave McGuire held on community development, because that is my passion, besides trash, but you know, been there, done that.
Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Bye.
I want to get to Guillermo.
Yeah,
share some of your concerns.
Well, you know, I think all this development is all well and good, and I feel trickle-down economics just doesn't necessarily work for the working poor. And I think there has to be some thought about how we raise living wages, $15 an hour. I think we have to be realistic that if we want equity, if we want everybody to sort of enjoy in the success of,
Certainly.
we have to pump the bottom up too. All right. I mean, I'm no economist, but simple math tells me that people that get the breaks up top don't necessarily release it to the people who make very few at the bottom. I think all the tax breaks and all the funding and everything that goes out, I think there needs to be some thought about an economic driver that comes from the bottom up, that people's wages are increased, that they get to spend the money, that they don't have to work 3 jobs, that they're able to coach for their kids' little leagues instead of working 3 jobs, that they get to be good citizens versus a slave to having a house that now they have to work 3 or 4 jobs to keep. I think we look at economic development only as a money generator, not as a relationship and human development kind of thing.
Roger, you're shaking your head.
I was a cop. I worked 2 jobs my whole life. It wasn't a high-paying job, but I understand what Guillermo's saying there too. But there's just 2 things I wanted to point out. Well, number one, I wanted to piggyback on what Tom said. I'm a firm believer, and we all are up here too, of this early childhood education. We need to have our kids ready so that they don't get frustrated and they're not dropping out of school and then becoming a problem. We want them to go through that. We want them to be ready to move on and go to college. Second of all, as far as the waterfront project goes, that's a private developer going there, and I kind of liken it to this. Like, if I live in a neighborhood and you know, I have a house that's $100,000 and there's a lot next to me, and somebody wants to buy it and build a $200,000 home, I'm going to say yes, please do that, because now the value of my home has just come up. So that's what I say about moving it out to the rest of the neighborhoods. I don't see the waterfront project as a negative. I see it benefiting the rest of that neighborhood down there.
If you can afford the property taxes once that
Also,
happens.
if you're not afraid to come into downtown Allentown, like a lot of the people who live out in the suburbs are still afraid, no matter what we do.
Right.
Tell me this. Let's go down the line and tell me how you would like to see the future of Allentown as we wrap up this show. Thank you.
I mean, how I'd like to see the future of Allentown is continued along the path that we are. where we have incredible, I look at Second Street, it's one of my favorite streets in my district and in the city, and you see this incredible small business growth that's owned by folks who live in Allentown, who represent our community. I think the first time I ran into Tom was at Parkway Caribbean with Rosie Thomas over, because at the end of the day. And you see the future of Allentown with a lot of homegrown talent, welcoming to the folks that are coming in, but it's already what we are. If there's one thing that I think we really truly need to get our arms around is a little bit of faith and confidence in ourselves. As a city, we have historically thought the worst about ourselves, and some of it's come from elected officials, some of it's come from people in the community. But we are a remarkable town filled with remarkable people, and our best days are ahead of us.
Very quickly, your perspective from the school district?
From an educational component, I like to see the future of Allentown have a really strong school district that's committed to ensuring that every student graduates college and career ready. We want our students to make the decision upon high school graduation what they want to do, but have the skills starting early childhood, ensuring that every kid reads on grade level by grade 3 is one of the components of our strategic framework, because our goal is to ensure that students graduate and gain all the experiences so that they can make decisions upon graduation to be excellent in whatever they desire to do. So a really strong school district that's a collaborative, supportive member of the Allentown community is going to be absolutely critical for the movement of our city moving forward.
And Roger, very quickly?
Very quickly, I saw from when Allentown had 5 movie theaters downtown to none. I saw that decline where there were empty storefronts and empty buildings. I see it going the other way now. I'm excited about it. I think there's good things for Allentown.
And I don't want to forget about anyone in the audience who would like to add another comment. Don't feel shy if you're inclined to do so. Mayor.
Be inclusive, not exclusive. Be united, not divided. Get all stakeholders at the table that affect their community, that affect their neighborhood. Listen, be a good listener, be a good collaborator.
I have a gentleman here, come join me please, who has something he wants to say. Tell me your name and where do you live, what area?
Patrick Palmer, I live in the Center City, Allentown, not far from the actual PP&L Center.
Okay, what do you want to share, Patrick?
To piggyback on what one of your colleagues mentioned about, the raising of the minimum wage, is there any chance of doing something with the minimum? I know that I believe it was Scranton was a city that they were considered something like ours, like a class 3, I believe is what we were called. And it wasn't really something that was up to them in terms of raising the minimum wage and in terms of changing the tax rolls as well. I see you, Pete, pointing at yourself here. So is there anything about us changing our code?
It's a state issue. Philly was able to do it because they have a certain classification. The rest of the Commonwealth is required to follow the state. I've co-sponsored minimum wage increases. 3 years ago it was $10.10 an hour. I've co-sponsored $12. I've supported $15 minimum wage, getting there, not culture shock doing it day one, but getting to that point. The governor has put it in every one of his budgets. It's been stripped out by the legislature in a terrible fashion. Even our Chamber of Commerce here in the Lehigh Valley supports an increase in the minimum wage, and we still are struggling in Harrisburg and changing that culture. I support it. I couldn't agree with you more, and I'm holding out hope, but I'm not going to hold my breath anytime soon.
So is there something that Scranton was able to do?
Scranton has not raised their minimum wage.
But
they're not allowed to.
the classification of their city, I know that they
Scranton's
were able to.
a city of the second class A. We have the ability to move to that point. There are significant pitfalls with doing that. It would require a number of years of study. It would change a lot of state laws relating to Allentown and Scranton. It's a bigger conversation than just a few seconds here on TV, but we could talk about that then.
I appreciate your question. And final thoughts, please?
I think that there are many opportunities for our faith communities to play a significant role in the continuing development of Allentown. I think the mayor's spirit around inclusivity is key to this, and I'm looking forward to that happening as we move out of our silos.
Guillermo?
So I'm glad Allentown and the Lehigh Valley has passed the language wars. It's an improvement. I worked in the Bethlehem Steel Plant, and when I started there as an 18-year-old, I spoke 2 languages fluently, and I still couldn't communicate with the people in there. I spoke English and Spanish, they spoke Pennsylvania Dutch. And so I remember in my early days of working in Allentown and organizing after I left the steel mill, the language issue was just so pervasive and prevalent. So from that perspective, there has been improvement. And the reality is everyone wants to be able to live a good life, wants to be able to pay for their home, upkeep it. Maybe it is the American dream, maybe it's not. I don't know. For some people, it's a nightmare to have a home. So what I think more than anything, as I'll say it again, is people need to be able to invest in themselves and invest in their families, which in turn they invest in the community. I think that actually is a bigger economic engine than all the tax breaks that people get. I think when people invest back in where they live, we're much better off for it. Crime goes down, homes are nicer, all the things that we want to see happen, but we're not gaining the traction for it because we're not putting the money where I think it belongs.
Dan?
Well, I'd like to say that I agree with all the comments I've heard from my colleagues, and I have to say that I've worked with all these gentlemen that are up here today. And the bottom line is the future of Allentown, I believe, is bright. And the thing is, it's all about the people. And I think that as long as we continue to get the residents involved, I know from working with these people up here today that almost everything that they do, their focus is about the people, the residents, and the people that actually live here. And so as long as we keep in the forefront of our mind, no matter what we're doing, no matter what the project is, no matter what the effort is, that's going to be about the residents, the people that actually live here, and consider that their best interest first, I think Allentown's future is going to be bright.
Panelists, audience members, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for taking the time to come and visit us. And for viewers at home, we want to thank you for joining us also. If there is an issue or a concern that you'd like PBS 39 to address, please go to our website at WLVT.org. We would like to hear from you. From all of us at PBS 39, thanks again for joining us. I'm Monica Evans from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.